Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Drum Corps Coffee Shop podcast. Today, I am lucky enough and fortunate enough to be joined by two people who have pushed the activity percussion-wise. And, you know, without further ado, let me just bring them on. Paul and Sandi Rennick, welcome to the coffee shop. Paul, welcome back. Sandi, this is your first time. Welcome to the shop.
Thanks for having us, Robert.
Thanks, Rob. Good to see you.
Great seeing you guys. Hey, Paul, I know recently, well, first off, I want to say congratulations on the 2025 season. And it's been a couple years since I talked with Paul, so congratulations on winning Percussion 2024, which is a year ago. But, you know, you guys always strive for the best and to be competitive and everything. And I just wanted to say congratulations on that. And for the Corps placing third place.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Or what they call nowadays medaling, you know, you received a medal. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's very cool. Again, just coming back and after taking that break in 23 and to just keep it like it's just unbelievable. The last couple of years with the Corps. It's just exciting. Goes from here.
For the both of you, was it hard getting back into the grind after being off, or was it just like right back into it?
It's funny because you just congratulated. We spent so many years just wondering if we made finals.
It is pretty surreal still. Yeah, I think 23 for us, it was, obviously it was tough. I think in 20 and 21 when we were off because of COVID, and that everybody was off. And so 23 was different just because, um, we didn't know that was it was kind of, again, everything still happened. And it was tough. But at the same time, we were able to take some trips with the kids and go see family that we hadn't seen and get to do, I guess, some normal family things in the summer that didn't necessarily follow with the drum corps season as we usually have had to do. But yeah, I think we were pretty fired up and ready to go. And so it was exciting to get started and come back out strong in 24.
That's awesome.
There was like, probably three or four things that I noticed about that year that I was surprised. And 24, not being out the previous year was really different. It had been a long time for every single year we come out. And so it was really unusual. But like Sandi said, I mean, we were happy to have more time with the family and everything like that. But the one thing about 24 and coming back, honestly, and I say this in all sincerity, we were just kind of happy to be back.
Yeah.
And it really does. I think it was an unusual benefit for us to sort of look back and to not have that for one year and to realize that and to appreciate it the next year. I thought the whole perspective of like competition and preparedness and all that kind of stuff really took on it was different. Last year it was funny because last year we kind of were placing a little better or something like that, but it just was a totally different feeling, like being in the middle of the grind rather than being out of it and appreciating it like as much as it's hard to put it into words, but yeah, just the appreciation of just being able to do it
Yeah.
was really a lot of fun.
Well, it's definitely great to have the both of you back and to listen to your book, because you guys both write incredible books. So, it's like I said, it's fantastic to have you back. Now, I know this latest off season, Paul, you had some surgery. How is your recovery going? Are you all right? Pretty major surgery, correct?
Yeah. It was cervical fusion, and sometimes you can hear my voice is a little rough. And it was I've had arthritis for a long time and my whole life. It's in my family, and so for a while in the past year, I would be like pins and needles from my shoulder all the way through my fingertips in both arms. And it was really like got to the point where I got to do something about this. And fortunately we live in an area that there's a lot of great doctors, and it was a really fantastic situation. I mean, you just got a really good feeling from these doctors. And evidently, just what people can do now is pretty mind-boggling. I mean, to see the X-rays, there's like 10 bolts and a titanium plate, and they surprisingly they go in through the front, which I thought was the weirdest thing about the whole thing was it was like the vertebrae were being compressed, and there's a symptom of stenosis.
Stenosis, correct? Yeah, because
Right.
I have the same thing in my lower back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of nothing you can do it, and it's a slow grind, right? It just every year it gets a little worse until eventually the nerves are kind of pinched. There's not enough room. And then they just go in and clear out the bone spurs and clear everything out and then put titanium spacers between your vertebrae to keep the space consistent. And then the only thing that I've had to get used to was the nerves sort of getting used to that and the muscles getting used to where the bones are. You'd figure that would be a minor thing, but it actually is the most time consuming thing about it. So
You know, when you first told me about this, I think I figured out what the culprit is. In the lot, you're always like bent down, listening in.
right.
So you know,
Nailed it. Yeah.
yeah, there it is. There it is. You know, listening for ticks. That's what caused all that.
Yeah, it's I think for Paul, so he when I think the doctor suggested surgery, it was kind of late. I want to say it was like March or April in this last spring. And so then it was like well, if we do it now, he would have to try to recover. They say I mean, it's a quick recovery. I'm sorry, dog is barking, but he's fine. It's fine.
That's all right. I have a dog that's sitting like right over my left shoulder, and I'm sure at some point he's gonna bark. So no biggie. So you're saying about the surgery, that about the timing?
Grab this dog.
So, well, it was just the idea, he spends a lot of time on tour. And so the reality of being able to go on tour while recovering from that, it didn't seem like that would work. And so then, yeah, and then our son moved into college right when we got off the road. So then he had it done in September, but he's already, walking around. You can't really see the incisions. And he took a leave for these first 2 months from school, which he's never done that. I think it's always just been drum corps directly into UNT, directly back into drum corps. And so I think he's also, speaking of taking time off, I think he's also like ready for that to be back to normal and get back at it and see the students too.
Yeah, you know, picturing Paul taking time off is like it's weird because I picture him like pacing back and forth, just waiting to get back into it. That's how I pictured like you guys in 2023, just like
Just staring at each
going
other.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we do? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's all, you know, I hate to say it like this, for Paul, that's all he's known since the 80s, you know, and that's all you've known since the 90s.
Yeah,
So it's like, it's crazy.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But doesn't he looks well rested, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he looks like he always has the vampire blood that runs
Yeah.
through his veins that keeps him looking as he looked back when I marched under him in the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
But Sandy, I had heard in a prior podcast that you were big. You're like big into soccer before doing the whole percussion thing, right?
Yeah.
You still play it all, or you still follow it?
From the waist down, I am dressed for my game. That is at 3 p.m. right now. Yeah, I was raised like my parents were not really musicians and all that. And I think when you grow up, you do what your parents do, and so I played sports really competitively, and then I like just sort of it was like a happy accident into band and percussion and all of that, and then but by the time I hit my senior year of high school, I actually turned down a full ride to go play soccer to go and major in music instead at a totally different place. And I was just kind of ready. I think my whole identity at that point had been tied into sports, and it was really exciting to kind of become, who I wanted to be. And so I quit cold turkey for probably about 30, it seems like 30 years. And then a good friend of mine who happened to be the mom of one of my son's teammates, she bullied me into joining an over 30 team, or I think it was, yeah. And then that's just been really awesome just to get back into it, and try not to get too competitive, but still do really well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I need to get into something because it's like I do this, but I should be doing some other stuff and
Right.
help health wise, you know. Yeah. And then for like Paul, here's a fun fact I learned over this last year. Paul is a golfer, like a scratch golfer, correct?
Yeah, my parents we grew up really close to a golf course, and my brother and I were on a golf team in high school, and both of us shot in the 70s. And there were even some people that shot in the 60s. And yeah, it just was part of the lifestyle of growing up, honestly. So
Do you still get a chance to play it a lot, or
not a lot. No, it's difficult. It's kind of you have to be located near a place where it's easy to get to or whatever. But try as much as we can,
Mhm.
honestly. Sandy's parents lived in a like kind of a retirement community with like 5 golf courses there. And so every time we go there, we try
Yeah,
to, I just hit some balls with my son not that long ago.
That's awesome. Sandy, do you golf as well?
I do. Yeah.
Are you like scratch female golfer?
No, um, no, I'm not.
Does it get competitive between you guys when you play?
Yes, of course.
Do you play, Rob?
I try, but I mostly kill gophers. But like I'm picturing when you guys play, it's like, all right, you play for beats a hole. Like, all right, if I win this hole, my feature is going to be longer than your feature. Is it something like that?
Luckily, no,
Yeah.
it is not. I actually think, what's funny about that I think is great that Paul probably didn't mention to you is that he started playing soccer also. And I
Oh
don't
wow.
know this, but like the older we get, like you don't try new things, right? Like nobody wants to be a beginner at anything, right? Being a beginner is an uncomfortable place to live. And when I was playing again, then all three of our kids play really competitively too. And I think it was Colin who was like, so dad, you're like the only one that's not playing. And Paul did not play as a kid. So it was all like starting from scratch and he did great.
Knowing Paul, I'm sure he gets competitive doing that, like right when he started up. What you need to do though is you need to take a picture of him wearing those Umbro dolphin style shorts and send them to me for blackmail.
Totally. Yeah. The old guys soccer league.
But now, one last thing on golf. Here's what we should do. We should all go play in every like drum corps tournament and just take their trophies, just win. And
I,
I'll be
you
like,
know, we keep talking about that. There's actually people on our staff that play golf.
Really.
oh, Peter. I know Peter.
Peter, the snare tech, is really good. He works at a. I think he still does, or he used to work at a golf course, and he's really good. And we keep talking about like bringing 3 clubs out or something
Maybe we
like
just
that.
do
It's
teams.
yeah, it's
Like we form it.
it's tough.
Let me know when you guys do it. I'll go out there. But you know what the best type of golf is? Is free golf. So if there's anybody out there with golf hookups, let us know because we're totally down for free golf.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yes.
All right. So as we're talking here, this coming week is PASIC, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys, I'm sure every year you're a part of it, but this year they're featuring the Vanguard drumline.
Mhm.
You want to tell us about PASIC at all and what's going on this week for you guys?
It's the 50th anniversary of the Percussive Arts Society, which is a big deal. It's the one main collective percussion organization in the country, and it's international. And it's such honestly, it is an honor to be asked and to do it. And we usually we'll always say yes and do whatever we can to make sure because we just respect the organization so much. And what's made it really easy is Russ and Gio from the organization have totally committed. They understand, I think, the exposure or the experience, I should say, for the members. And so they have spared no expense. They are they are driving 2 of those Rockstar buses out here for the members to help the members. So like not everyone's from this area, but people it's easier to get to this area. And so they're just taking a bus up and then provided housing for them, hotels, and then the bus back to where we're going. So it just the logistics of going to PASIC coming from Texas are not easy. I mean, we used to do it all the time, but it is it's almost insurmountable in terms of just getting there and coming back. And the Corps has been just absolutely the greatest when it comes to doing that.
That's great. Oh, go ahead.
Well, PAS, back before Lucas Oil Stadium was a thing, like PAS, the Progressive Art Society, used to have their convention, would move around, much like DCI would be in a different city every year too. And then whoever was in charge of Indianapolis and what has happened in Indianapolis, PAS moved their headquarters there too, around the same time that DCI did. And so PASIC, the convention, has been hosted in Indianapolis now since then, and it happens on the same weekend as the BOA Grand National. So tons of students around, and really great experience, I think, for the kids, for students, educators, and like Paul said, like we definitely have supported. We've been longtime PAS members and served on the marching committee for a number of years, and we were presenting last year. We did a presentation on arranging. And we had asked at the time if they wanted us to bring, do you want us to bring any of the members or do part of the group? We can bring the core. And they had mentioned that, well, next year is the 50th anniversary, and we're thinking that, we'd like you to have the group come if we can. We last presented with the entire group back in 2019. Which is, again, a huge honor. And I know for the students, it's just such a great opportunity to get back together, play the music that we haven't heard since August, and get to just see their friends. For a lot of them, they attend as music majors, in school. So to actually get to be a part on the other side, up on the stage, is really, a great opportunity for them as well.
100%, 100%. And yeah, it's great that you guys are all meeting there in Dallas and taking the bus up, because now with the everything going on with the airlines and shutting down flights, it's probably the best thing that you guys all go up there together as a group. Plus, it's like a little mini tour, and everybody gets to hang and probably drum on the bus on the way up.
From the show.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's no way they forgot that by now. Yeah,
clinics with the group are, I think, so much easier. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's so much easier with the group. Like, to be able to talk about something. Like, we did a clinic last year on composition, like Sandy was saying, but it's all very academic, isn't it? It's all like
Right.
you put music on the screen and you talk about compositional techniques, and it's just like a class kind of thing. And when you have the group there, there's a certain, I mean, as you obviously know, there's a certain live element to what's playing that really is hard to capture like any other way, through video and through just any of the recordings are always just like, not quite live. And to see it live is always a lot of fun. And it's easy for us to talk about the music when it's right there happening.
So what is it? I've never, unfortunately, I have never been to a PASIC. I'd wanted to go this year, but it just wasn't in my budget. But what is going on during your guys' presentation? Can you talk us through like the beginning to what happens?
The Percussive Art Society like starts earlier in the week, and there's all sorts of like carefully planned out, like every hour is something different. And there's a I would say it's fair to say there's a premium on new music in the beginning of the week, like when people first get there. Like, if you're a percussion instructor and you're looking for literature for your school or whatever, there's always lots of sessions of people playing new music, so you can sort of be exposed to that. And then there's all sorts of competitions, which occupies another good part of it. Like, we were fortunate enough to have the University of North Texas Percussion Ensemble, under the direction of Dave Hall, win one of the spots for the International Percussion Ensemble competitions. And coincidentally, one of the other ones is TCU, under the direction of Brian West. And we have a fair amount of members from both of those. So the players are going to be very busy.
Yeah.
Like, they have performances a couple of times before we actually perform. So I think we tend to rely mostly on the training throughout the summer. I mean, honestly, the first time I think we ever gave a clinic, we were sort of over prepared and over planned everything, and then we're at the first rehearsal, and in like 20 minutes, all of a sudden it's kind of back to the way it was, and we're like, okay, what are we going to do for the next 2 hours? And so I think now we're more experienced about knowing that it will come back, but we don't want to. Honestly, I don't think we want to take away from the preparation of the other groups that they're part of too. Like the snare ensemble and the quad ensemble are competing, and a couple of the percussion ensembles are competing. It's a big deal, and so we don't want to like push our agenda too much until that's over. So we have a really healthy rehearsal Friday night when all that stuff is over. So it usually all comes together Friday night, and then we have a sound check and a preparation an hour before the clinic. Clinic's at 10 on Saturday morning. And I just got a text yesterday from Luke Vogt, who's the head of the sound team. And those guys have been on it, like getting sound ready for the hall. We have risers set up. And so it'll be like more like a concert, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The Santa Clara Vanguard drumline in concert, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Yeah.
They have like a Jumbotron screen up and all that. It's pretty cool. What I always think, it's funny that Paul brings that up. I think the first time we brought like the whole group was in 2005, maybe it was like Phantom Regiment. And I had dug out my pit book because, you carried around scores in those days. And I brought it to PASIC. And then, it takes, 5 minutes to realize I don't have any updated scores. And then, it's like, I'll just get out of the way and go sit in the auditorium and listen to them run things. And yeah, it's pretty neat how quickly it goes back to it might as well be the day after finals. Like it's pretty awesome and just such a testament to the players. I'm really excited for them and for everybody to get to hear that music again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, they're all lucky to be able to be there and listen to it, and it's cool that it coincides with the Bands of America
Hmm.
Yeah.
Grand Nationals that are there that same weekend.
Yeah.
I think it's like a home for all things to happen in the summer, but also at this time of the year. But it's kind of amazing how everybody tries to plan all these meetings and stuff, and then you quickly realize that you just run out of time. There's not much time. When we used to do clinics, I think we were really focused on maybe parsing things out and playing specific little things to try to teach people about something. But I'm the older I get, the more I like just to hear all of the music. I like to hear the whole thing. I like to hear the entire group instead of. That's why we kind of. It's always like a loaded question when people talk about the pit and the battery, and
Mm.
it's like we're so used to hearing it all as one thing that
Mhm.
that's kind of more like what the clinics will be like. It's uh, playing music, talking about it, explaining it, hearing it one more time, and then moving on through the whole show.
Yeah, I used to be a like battery focused person until I started really like doing full percussion ensemble videos. Now I'd rather hear that than just the battery. Like how does the front to back work together and
Yeah.
as a piece and how it fits with everything else. So yeah,
Yep.
it's they're in for a treat there at PASIC when you guys do your clinic on Saturday for sure. And then like India is just such a great place for it because everything's in walking distance and there's so much restaurants and the stadium and everything is just it's all really centered. Unless you stay somewhere far, I mean, everybody stays like
Although
at the
we did
Marriott.
check the weather today,
Yeah.
and you're
Is it bad?
California, it's pretty far from that. I think our son, college.
It's we're in the 80s here with no humidity. So,
I think it was like 30 in the 20s and the 30s.
oh my God,
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ma-
So there's
all I
that.
gotta say is, Paul, your face is gonna be super red if you go outside. So, that cold weather, man. Yeah. Also at PASIC, I wanted to touch on this. Is Tom Float is getting in the Hall of Fame, and um, Catherine Float, his wife, recently passed about a week or so ago. Um, I know, Paul, you were friends with the Floats and Sandy. Is there anything you can share? You want to share about Catherine or Tom?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a total shock to hear about Catherine, to be honest with you. It really was, because I was really looking forward to I was asked to do a video for Tom's presentation, and really took that seriously. And I think everyone's videos were like 7 minutes long, and mine was like 27 minutes. I mean, it was like it just, and I felt like I wasn't repeating myself. I felt like I was just really talking about Tom and Catherine, and just the impact that they made, not only in the activity, but specifically with students that they taught. And it was just really fun. Honestly, PASIC, it's really a fun time to say nice things about people, to recognize people. And it was one of those things where I was kind of procrastinating on this video a little bit because it's a big topic, right? It's like, oh, tell us how you feel about Tom and about all this. And it was like, okay. And then eventually I sat down in the house alone, and it took a few hours, but it did all come out like kind of in one take, pretty much. And it was great. And I tell a couple of really nice stories. I don't know, to be honest with you, Rob, if it's going to all be edited out or not. My thing could be like 3 sentences. I don't know, but I did talk quite a bit about it. And I told a story about when I was marching, and we had a lunch break, and we were staying at the same school as the Blue Devils were staying at. It was, and to make a, I'm not going to try to talk too long here, but basically, we were from the mindset of, if we practice an hour longer than you did, we would be an hour better. And I think that you understand that completely. Everyone in drum corps gets that. It's like we're going to work harder and do it. And that was the first time that I had really seen the efficiency of like really I don't know. It was like a really well-oiled machine. Like it was, they didn't need to yell and scream and do anything like that. It was really very professional. And I remember on our lunch break, the Blittles were just sort of getting out of bed, and we had been rehearsing for like 4 hours. And then here we walk up and we're just getting lunch, me and a friend of mine, and we were just sitting on the curb, and we just coincidentally sat right in front of where the pit was playing, and up comes Catherine, and all of a sudden we just sat there while we are eating lunch, listening to basically like an hour rehearsal. And it really struck me as being something totally different. It was like a really the closest thing to what I at the time was studying in college as a percussion major. It was really close to that, like the way that they played, the sounds they get, the instructions that they were getting from not only Catherine but Tom, just really professional and really there was a plan there. You know what I mean? It was very, very well thought out, and I remember really appreciating it. And I just really liked the fullness of the front ensemble, and it really affected me, to be honest with you, for the next 15 years. And when I went down to North Texas, I remember really exploiting the front ensemble and thinking that was the next frontier as far as percussion writing in drum corps. And she was huge when it came to that for me personally. I thought it was like really, like I said before, it was like a different thing. I tell the story, and I was really looking forward to Catherine hearing that. You know what I mean? It's always
Mhm.
nice to for people to verbalize what they feel. And I remember just being really sad when I heard that news.
And it's hard to talk about one without the other because they were that team,
Yeah.
and they're both sorely missed. And if you were fortunate enough to know them, they were both larger than life figures,
Hmm.
in my opinion. But I'm glad you get to honor Tom, and Catherine's memory will live on, and both of their music lives on for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into this 2025. Before we do that, though, Paul, I want to put in my request. I know it's like in the lot, it's just warm ups and book. If you
Great.
can throw in a lot jam for Rob, I
All
would
right.
appreciate it. Like
I'll write it
maybe,
down.
yeah, there you go. Like, how about I know you probably still have that Rose Rhythms chart from I can't remember
Yeah.
that would be cool. No, it doesn't need to be reefed or nothing, just something short and everybody can so I can enjoy. But that's me being selfish. But anyways,
All right.
here we go. Let's get into this 2025 video. So
Oh,
let
you
me
have the
share
video.
this.
Oh, what
Okay.
then?
Yeah. Let me optimize everything. Can you guys see that?
Hmm. You know, Ra, I must say one of the coolest things about this past summer was a thing that we were pretty tentative about, and it was the flow marching video that was happening at the end of move-ins.
Oh yeah.
So it was like
Oh, really?
yeah, total percussion standstill. Like we hadn't even have a show yet, and I remember feeling really proud of the players. I thought it really set the whole tone for the summer in a good way.
That's cool. I need to go back and watch that. I'm sure it's online somewhere. I'm one of those people that's like, I don't want to watch it. Even like my own says, like, I don't want to watch it. But you know, it's cool that there's stuff like that. It's always cool that there's content out there to go back and look at. And like, especially, I've told people this. The reason I do what I do is because I wish there was somebody doing that for me back when I marched. Like, I'm sure you wish there were some 2/7 videos from the '80s when you.
Well, honestly, that's the big, huge inspiration for the videos that we do at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Is exactly what you said. It's like I wish I would have had that when I was a kid. And
When is the official Vanguard percussion ensemble video dropping, or has it?
not yet. It's typically kind of around Christmas time. Uh, it's Sean McBride is the guy who really takes that
Yeah.
whole project on, and it's pretty much a passion for him. I mean, he's an eye doctor, and it's not what he does, but he really is totally supportive and does such great work. And I feel like it's like a really, like you said, like if I was a kid, I would be just really like scrolling and scouring that and trying to figure out things. I think to me personally, I think that's a much better bit of advice for young writers than just getting a transcription that somebody else did.
Mm.
You know, I just I think there's no substitute for that.
What do you think when you see, speaking of transcriptions, what do you guys think when you see the fan made transcriptions of what you guys do? Do you get a kick out of that? Or do you ever watch any of that stuff?
No, I mean, no, I don't tend to look for that. I do see that, like Paul was saying, well, I'll see people asking for sheets and things like I guess that's what the kids say. And a lot of it, it's usually a little more complicated than just something as simple as that. But like Paul says, like it's kind of the fun used to be like the ear training
Yeah.
and the ear training part of like listening to something over and over again and figuring out what it is. That's how you learn a lot, I think, as a musician, beyond just learning how to play what you see on the page. And but yeah, I mean, I think that's great. Obviously, I love the music that we do, and that people want to learn it is really cool too.
Rob, I'm totally guilty of not knowing where all of that is. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to be
No,
purposely,
no, no. I get it. I
but
get it 100%.
I do find, like you were saying, when you listen to the things, I think we both think the same way, which is we tend to move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We tend to not like really listen to a lot of the stuff in the past, and
Right.
um, because I think it's an easy way to get trapped into either repeating yourself or trying to figure out how to recreate things that worked well. I think once the season's over, we both just sort of turn the page and take a breath and figure out, okay, what didn't we do then that we could do this year, or what are some of the favorite things that we want to do, and then we try to compile a new thing, right?
Do you both have hard copy saved of everything that you've written? I'm sure digitally you probably do since the digital age, but like, do you have like a library somewhere of all the hard copies of all the stuff you guys have written?
Well, my office at school is kind of like a museum, so.
Like a hazard, and there's a lot of old paper. Yeah, I think we did. Like again, I was referring to Pip books. I think there used to be a shelf on one of his offices of all these like zippered binders that were road tested, and yeah, that all just seems so silly now. Um,
No, not at all. Not at all.
but yeah, there's probably again when we open that coffee shop, we will have a grab bag, or you'll just get to choose from, one of the various things that we want. Probably should get rid of at this point, but
Well, this is what I picture at some point: the Rennick Foundation, and it's going to be a building, a building, like a museum, and then there'll be a couple statues. Sandy will be there in like a soccer uniform, and then Paul will be there in a Dallas Cowboys jersey because I know that's his team. Our
so
teams play next week, by the way, and I'm calling it now. Raiders are beating the Cowboys.
you're probably right. I'm so
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, but the Rennick Foundation, the museum, and all in there, people can go see your manuscripts behind like protective UV glass. And there'll be videos playing.
I will say, I mean, I think Sandy and I are very similar when it comes to this. Is like we learned how to write music with a pencil and a paper. And I really think that there's a process that one time somebody told me that if you write something down, it's the equivalent of reading it 3 times. And I thought that was fascinating. And I really do think that the physical act of writing music has helped teach us how to write music.
Hmm.
And now I think the efficiency and the quickness and the time saving nature of online, or not online, but like software applications and stuff like are just priceless. I don't even know
Oh
how to
yeah.
do without it. But I'm kind of glad that we learned to write music before that era took over completely, because I do think there's a difference. Like when you hear Sandy write a marimba part, you know that she's not. Please don't get offended about
No,
anybody.
no, no.
Anything I'm
Yeah.
saying here.
I
It's like she's not like a snare drummer that learned how to use MIDI. You see what I mean? I think there's a big difference between that. It's like really learning how to craft the instruments that you're writing for.
being
Is
able to play the instruments
Yeah.
that you're writing for. I think now it's and I will say this also exposes our like maybe not as a strength of us, but like writing, I think now, and this might be just a whole other topic that we go into is it's so easy to play to write right for the playback and the quality of the playback. And I think, the playback makes everything, it sounds like it works.
Yeah.
And I,
Until you get out there and actually play
Right.
it.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, we've always just really valued walking the group through the music for the first time, right? And stepping through it, and then so much happens in those rehearsals that, I mean, that's really where all the work really can happen. And I think now, I mean, it's amazing what we can do, do like Paul said with the programs, and never having to leave your house essentially. But I really feel like for us, like our best work comes after that, like that next step where it's actually like the live workshopping
Mhm.
of the music.
The shaping of what you actually want to hear.
Yes, our playbacks will not sound like that.
We tend, we tend to not use our playbacks at all.
Do you have recordings of all your playbacks somewhere?
No,
Uh, you
no.
know what? No, what we've done now recently is farm those out to people
Yeah.
who are really good at it.
I
And
would like
then
to hear some of those
yeah,
sometime.
and then when you hear it, you think, "Wow, holy cow, this is
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
it's."
You're
But
gonna
the
have to
amount
slide
of
me some of those
time,
files. Yeah.
but the amount of time that they invest in making sure everything is balanced, and it's just like time that I don't know that we could spend. I don't know if we have that kind of time, but we know like the playback is mainly for like, is there a wrong note, or is there a conflict or something?
Right.
It's usually one or two passes and then realize, okay, that's good. But a majority of it is we kind of know what it's going to sound like through experience. And sometimes when you allow the MIDI playback to influence you,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like if you just play back 4 bars and that causes you to write something for the next 4 bars. I don't know if we think that way. I think it's more a big picture, like composed in the old fashioned kind of way.
Going back to what you're saying about writing by hand, there's a lot to be said about sitting there, and especially when you're new at really writing, to go there and write it by hand, because I think it forces the brain to really think about what you're doing. And I use this as an example, unrelated to music. When I worked in law enforcement, at the beginning of my career, wrote reports. Computers and stuff wasn't a real thing. I had to write reports by hand, and fast forward to computers, it's so easy now just to type stuff out without thinking. And I would always, when I trained new officers, would purposely have them write their first reports by hand, so they could learn how to formulate opinions and think about what they're actually putting down on the paper, but rather than just typing it out. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
That's
Totally.
that's a perfect analogy
Yeah.
to writing music.
But it really forces you to think about like what exactly you're putting down on the paper. Plus, you don't want to mess up because erasing and doing it over sucks.
Yeah, get it right the first time.
All right, so let's jump into this. The Here we go. This is a video I put together from finals morning. Thank you guys for letting me hang out finals morning. Shout out to the Vanguard media team member that was nice enough to film the cymbals for me, and also I forget the name of the front ensemble instructor that I gave him a little camera and he filmed the pit for me.
I think it was
Is
Ty.
that Tyler? Yeah.
Thanks, Ty.
He did such a great job, and dude, everybody at Vanguard was so friendly and nice enough to let me hang out. But so going into the season, how did you guys figure out exactly the show? Was it the design part hard, or did you guys already pretty much have an idea what you wanted to do?
Well, there is a similar process every year, that takes a while. So it's a loaded question. Like when you say, how do we decide to do? A lot of times it's an evolution over a couple of months of talking weekly, if not more, to the design team people. And obviously, Sandy and I talk all the time. And I think it was a general feeling of we wanted to be different. We wanted to choose a different style of music, or have open up a whole outlet of contemporary music that, in my opinion, wasn't really being played. Because it can seem a little off-putting or whatever, but through arranging it, you can make even the most off-putting contemporary things sound better. I mean, you can actually make it sound much more digestible for the audience in our medium. And a lot of the pieces that we ended up playing ended up being personally meaningful to me and other people on the staff. I really do. I think the beginning of the show is a good example I played a faculty recital a few times and played this George Crumb piece called "Idol of the Misbegotten." And it really is profound. I mean, just the beginning of the piece in general is one of those things where I have rarely played things live where you could sense that you could hear a pin drop. And I think the last time I've said it a couple of times, but I think the last performance I actually heard people breathing in the audience. That's how epic the beginning of this thing is. And I remember on stage in the moment just thinking, you know what, that's effect. That is an effective thing. And every time I've done it, it sounds the same. And then I think pitching it to Sandy and Evan Van Doren, the brass arranger, and they're I think everyone on the design team is really considerate and very I'm having a hard time finding the words, but they're really considerate in terms of just appreciating other people's opinions and ideas. No idea is really dismissed.
Mhm.
And I think everyone has an idea. If somebody on the design staff has the inclination to say it out loud, I think there is something behind that idea. And I remember just really feeling appreciative that nobody just shot those ideas down. And then when we were in I had another experience, and there was an Arvo Pärt tune that this is paired with in the beginning. It's called Frettras, which is probably one of the most famous pieces that he's ever written. And I'll never forget my personal experience in seeing that for the first time and seeing the Quartet play that. And it was very similar. And I think what was being tossed around in the design meeting was another Arvo Pärt tune, Spiegel and Spiegel maybe, or something like that,
Mhm.
where it was definitely a tune that required lots of development and took a lot of time. And then I remember thinking, and that was one of the reasons why we never did Frettras, is because we were just afraid that it just takes a lot of time. That's part of the joy of the piece is the over time how it affects you,
The
greatly.
build.
Yeah, it really is there's nothing like it. I think it's one of it's one of my favorite things ever in music was hearing that live for the first time and then trying to figure out how we could do it. And it turned out to be able to be paired with the George Crumb piece almost perfectly. Like it really did set up just such an introspective beginning, and I think that was our whole point. So
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
I was going to say, I think that also coming off of 24 and coming back for the first time and then trying to see, like Paul was saying, if you always, are looking, you want to look at the past to like learn from it, right? As far as what works and what you would like to do differently. But I think it was actually PASIC. We tend to have a design meeting in Indianapolis because we're all in town. And I think just kind of brainstorming and like Paul said, everybody is so supportive of everyone else's ideas and just really try to, get it out there. And I remember when it was that same feeling when we were listening to some of the source music, just everybody stops
yeah.
looking at their phones or whatnot, and you just are just actively listening. And this is music. A lot of what we did this year, I never could have imagined us actually like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever. Like I think that's what's been so exciting. Um, is that there's this feeling of freshness and newness and challenge for myself, even like
Mhm.
almost 30 years into doing this, that it's like it's just awesome that we can put this music that's so important to us out on the field. It's just, I can't believe it actually worked the way it did. And I'm so glad that it did. But yeah, I feel like it came together. It's just, I guess, the idea of doing it at the right time.
So the thing that was the original inspiration was the feeling that you had from the music,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not to try to be too academic, but then it was our task, and I think Sandy still has a piece of paper on our piano with the chords,
Mhm.
like trying to figure out, because if you know that piece, it's kind of like this endless cycle of chord progressions that is what is charming about it. It's really it just keeps going and keeps building, and it makes everyone like Sandy just said, like as soon as you put it on, everyone just quiets down and listens to this, and
Mhm.
it's really powerful. And we had to figure out. through, and Sandy spent a ton of time on the piano trying to figure out what part could we use, or what vehicle, and we ended up using that piece as like a transitional pivot device throughout the entire show.
Mhm.
It wasn't, and that really was the thing that really made it work. Is the fact that we didn't try to do the piece like from beginning to end, like old style, like in
Old
the
school.
90s
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
80s. You would pick a piece, whether you thought it worked every minute of the way, you would still feel obligated to do the whole thing. And I think now we're at a point we take what works and we don't take what doesn't work, or we figure out how to make it work. And so if you hear the beginning, there's like essentially simplified as like a four chord progression that can start and end at different places, and it was crafted. uh I think eventually, I remember being on the phone with Sandy quite a bit while I was in Idaho, and we were trying to figure, if she was really trying to figure out, like, okay, which of these chords would really be perfect for this kind of situation. I remember being up there and having to sort of move them around, rhythmically
Mhm.
move them around so that they would really motivate getting out of it perfectly. So it was like we had talked about earlier. It was like part of that live process. Making it happen was really important too.
Well, and if you remember, Paul, I actually can totally remember this now because, Evan does such a great job too. Like, my goodness,
Yeah.
he can't, it's like he can hear what everybody is saying in these meetings. And then he just, 3 days later, you get an email with like, all right, this is an idea, and it's pretty remarkable. But then, as what usually happens, um, then all of a sudden when you're starting to put the show together and on the field, and like it's starting to come to life outside of just the audio part of it. Well, now we need. Do you remember we added that bass drum? The bass drum thing needed to be added. Now we have all this blank space, and that's what he's talking about. Is we had to insert something into a thing that already existed perfectly fine without without this. And so it's like kind of figuring out how to make it seem like that was the original intent all along.
Yeah. And then I thought it was cool. Like, I'll be honest, at the beginning of the season, I was like, what am I watching? But then by the end, I was completely bought into what you guys were doing. And I thought it was cool how you took some Vanguard piece from back in the 1900s and you wove it into today's stuff, the Send in the Clowns part as the underlay
Yeah.
into to the show. I thought that
I,
was
I
like,
think we all appreciate that kind of stuff. I think we all try to find those little nuggets that we can hide in there, that if you're interested, you'll find it and be like, oh wow, that's, you know what I mean? It's just clever kind of stuff.
I
That
thought it was very avant garde.
Well, and I definitely, as much as I try to avoid the internet at all costs, I know that, like, I like the idea that I think when we are writing shows now, I like that there are recognizable themes that come back. And I like that the whole show seems like one completed idea rather than, like Paul said, just
Yeah.
parsed up. I mean, I get you can have different productions and all of that, but I like it when there's something that ties it all together. I think when I go and hear music, like I think that those recognizable moments are really important. Like, that helps bring, the audience in. And again, I like thinking of it rather than individual, like, opener, ballad, closer, totally unrelated things. I like that we can weave it all together musically, and I just think it adds like a challenge to it also that I really like too. So
Yeah, so it's, instead of being like broken up, it's just one combined show.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was different in terms of the design process, with the beginning of the show specifically. That the bass drum, like the individual bass drummers that come out of the form and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
that was completely Mike Gaines needing that time.
Right.
100%. I mean, it was like we just said, it worked perfectly without it. But honestly, I ended up really liking it a
Oh, it's
lot more
incredible. Yeah.
because of the coordination of the visual program and how it logically spit the individual bass drummers out, and then each one of those parts is crafted. It's not like a split part where it's like a bass split between these things, or everyone's not playing the same part. And
Yeah.
I remember like seeing that and going, oh, okay, so this bass drum is 25 yards away from that bass drum. And so that inspired just to create its own part. And everyone had their own parts. And you'll notice that eventually when they get closer, then all of a sudden I move it to a more of a unison thing, which is a way that it is a way to enter the rest of the battery.
Yeah, like individuals coming together.
I think that's more, I think that's more development towards the next part of the thing. When you mention like the intro, I think of the keyboard chord in the beginning and the soloists and just the serene nature of the way it started. And that's what I meant when it's a different process. I think we were all conscious of the fact that we needed to give some time for things to happen. Drum corps, it's a race to the finish. It's like you got to get your feature in and your thought in, and you're looking at the clock and there's not enough time. And I think we consciously said, you know what? We need to take some time in the beginning and make sure we create that feeling that we want.
100%. Yeah. Before we like jump into this, one last question. The writing process, is it like, does a brass book come first and then they give it to you, or do you guys just arrange over a call together, or how does that work?
Paul spends a lot of time talking to Evan, and I like to be on a need to know basis.
So you're like at the end, you're the fixer, right?
Like,
well said.
Not exactly, but yeah, I kind of, we just all are really busy, and he's on the call, like they're meeting every week, and it's constantly happening, and I am not involved, or I'm peripherally involved. I'll go to, like, again at PASIC, I would go to that meeting if I could, but I mean, they work very hard and have a lot of conversations and all that, and then that's when we get to that next step of the process. But what I actually remember also about this year too is there wasn't like a big hurry, I felt, to get it done quickly. It was more just about getting it exactly right.
Yeah.
And we definitely have worked in environments before where it didn't matter if it was right or wrong, it just needed to be done. And so I feel like having that kind of patience with the process, I think, was really important, which that can be a big challenge too when so many people are involved with that creative process.
A lot of hands in the pot.
Yeah.
So just like the practical writing of the music, I mean, like just putting the notes down is the last thing that happens in the process. Yeah. Just so you know.
But what I just wondered is, what happened? Does the brass book come first, and then you shape what you write around the brass book?
Typically and this is after a lot of meetings, like we lay out the form, and we lay out pretty as close as we can to what's going to happen, allowing individual arrangers like Evan, Sandy, and myself, and Dave Isaacs, the sound designer. There's an environment that I think we were all very conscious to create, which is allowing the individual to do what they think is right. Like if we do something and we agree on something, and then we have let's say I have an idea about, okay, we could do this, then I have the freedom to like present that and say, look, this form is really good, but I think right here we should do this. And I think every one of the design people have that same right. You know what I mean? So after all of these conversations, months, right? And then Evan will put it together in what he feels like is his take on what everyone was saying. Like, okay, this is what I'm trying to get in at what everyone wants here, and here's the form of what could work. And then we just craft it after that, like to make it like, once it hits the ground, then we actually sort of like make it sound right the whole way.
So pretty much initially you laid out kind of like a storyboard.
Yeah.
And then from there it gets all put together. All right, got it. All right, here we go. Let's jump right into it, because I could sit here and I could talk to you guys for hours about all this stuff, but I mean, we're already into it. So here we go. This is finals morning, Vanguard percussion section. You might hear some of the horn line in the background because they were rehearsing off. If we need to pause or anything during, let me know. So it starts off. You have the violin. What are they strumming on?
Those are instruments that we made. They're called based on something called an apprehension engine.
Yeah, it's like a sound effect box, like Hollywood style.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Each one of them is slightly different, so that they can do different things.
Yeah. And then like the soundscape throughout the whole show is peak. I don't know who designs all that, but it's
Dave Isaac.
yeah. Then here's the bass drum part you're talking about.
Of course, we cut right to the
Cut to the battery so soon, Rob. The snares mark time.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, theremin.
I love that instrument.
You know what? We were thinking about using more than one this year, and you know what? It's the kind of instrument that I don't think we've ever really dealt with, an instrument that projected that well. You know, it's so clear when you play that theremin, and you don't need to double it or anything like it. It's just really, really clear. And the contemporary nature of what we're doing, we were able to sort of create a theremin line that connected all of this stuff together. When the bass drums come in, it's I don't want to say softened up a little bit by the theremin melody, and the front ensemble was crafted last in terms of that whole moment, because we just needed to make sure that the pacing of that all didn't sit there for too long. It actually moved. You'll notice that the reason that feels that way is pretty much what the front ensemble does. So,
was the theremin something you knew initially you wanted to use, or was that something that later?
We used it in 2015 for the first time. And it was just a joke that I made to a guy named Mike McCool about a Led Zeppelin movie and the theremin that they used in that movie. And wouldn't it be cool if we could do that? You know, and then lo and behold, it's like, we can do that. There's a theremin made by Moog or something, and it's really not that bad, you know.
I'm glad that technology exists now in our activity that we like, so sounds like that and textures can be added.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Let's get
And
back
the player and just the instruction of that is pretty much giving the theremin to the player and saying, okay, here's a YouTube site you can see.
Yeah, it's like
there's a lot of credit to be given, you know, for the players who play that.
Well, I will say there's actually kind of a funny story, and this, you can edit all this out. But when we used it in 2015, Brandon Cummings, he was on our staff now. He was the front ensemble. It was that N marimba player was going to need to play it because they were the closest to where it's all going to plug in, and we were not sure. Again, we're all learning as we go, and this is again back in 10 years ago or so, and we were afraid anytime anybody would walk close enough to it, and this is back when judges were on the field too, so people are running around, we were thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to trigger the theremin. And then Paul happened to be at a good friend's wedding. This is in May. Like, we are getting ready to move in. Like, we have not figured everything out yet. And he happened to be the wedding reception. The band at the wedding reception had a theremin player, and Paul just, this was like in Chicago or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And he just asked him like, hey, how are you making it stop? Because this is, you know, at a party. And so he explained, oh, I put the wire over here and then it turns it off. And so we learned a lot on how to do it just by accident.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kind of funny.
No, that's great. You just, like, first time I saw that was probably back 2015, and you know, every time you guys bring it out, I'm like, I always watch like, how does that even work? But it's crazy.
There's two antennas basically. One of them controls how loud it is, and one of them controls the pitch. And so the proximity of your hand to the antenna changes it, which is why Sandy was saying, like, when anybody would get near, it would invade that space, and all of a sudden the theremin would start playing.
Yeah.
And what that guy at the wedding taught me was like a series of how to ground it so that it wouldn't respond to everything, but within a 2-foot radius of it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like the little backstories like that. All right, here, I think I rewound it a little bit. Let's get back into it. Here we got a build up. Now, this split part, is this something that you knew you wanted to do from the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old North Star, 1980.
Oh, really? Yeah. Now, when you're writing all this, Are you writing the cymbal parts as well, or is that stuff added in later? The
Yeah.
sounds and textures. So is that like the end of the first part?
That it's funny. It's interesting to hear your take on what it was and what it really is. They're like we're well into movement two right
Oh
now,
wow,
and
yeah.
so the introduction, honestly, movement one or the introduction, however people call it, would probably would end when the trumpets and snares came in.
Right.
That was the end of the first movement, and that was the source material of all of that is kind of the easiest way to think about why that's a different movement. So anything before the snares trumpets split thing was part of the music that we had discussed. Like and as soon
Perfect.
as the trumpets come in, that's a different. It's a John Corigliano, the third movement from Three Hallucinations. So that's a totally different piece. But isn't it funny like how it just all connects and it's all you know and I think that's we value that.
Mhm.
We like when things are through composed and get to places and the most interesting thing I think for us to write is the bridge material that gets you from one place to the next.
That first big snare moment, it's like snares in the horn line. I want to say, is that something you had planned initially, or is that something that had developed once you started getting into the design?
Um, one thing that I guess you probably could consider planned initially was the nature of the split snare thing. If you look at what they're playing, it's once again, it's not just like we're splitting the bass part. It's and honestly, I thought it was like probably kind of our responsibility, all of us in drum corps who are writing stuff, is just keep moving the ball forward. And I feel like the split nature of what happening was, like splitting 16th notes or a triplet or some kind of thing that like the typical top two bass drummers do or whatever. Um, I just want to go one step further than that and actually write a part that was split. You know what I mean? Like write a complete part that was split. So it doesn't split every count. It's like a conversational thing that splits back and forth. And then the split roll, I thought it was a kind of a throwback. So this whole the new splitting of the new composed part that was split, I thought would seem kind of modern and sort of new. And then I kind of just jokingly put the split roll as part of like an old thing.
Yeah, like paying the homage to like the down the line, like you used to see drum lines do what they.
Yeah, and it has a little, if you know, like the split itself has a little bit of a turnaround in the middle of it. Yeah.
But I thought the splits within the snares was just crazy because it's like a snare line, but yet they're playing individual parts. That it's like the sum the sum of the parts is equals one phrase. Yeah,
And what they're
yeah,
playing underneath is just the trumpet section. And if
yeah,
you hear the original Corigliano tune, it's just total chaos. And
yeah.
upper tessitura and just the range up there makes it really stressful. And that's why the resolution of it, when it finally goes down, stuck, chick, chick, whoosh, and it goes down to a warmer place, and that's kind of the start of the tune.
Yeah. Is there a reason why you use quints instead of like six drums on the tenors?
It's all Sandy. Sandy said, I
Oh,
want
really?
second spot.
No, that was not true.
I just, part of it, honestly, is just like I'm comfortable with that. I like that, and it's probably got like three parts to the answer, which is very quickly I'll say it's like it's one less drum to carry around. I don't know if the payoff, considering what I'm writing or what we're writing, I don't know if the payoff is totally there. I don't know if we need that second spot. If it was a situation that musically it was called for, sure, definitely. But I think that the symmetry of the players, I think, is the other thing that I was considering. Like the triangles created by three drum combinations is symmetrical because of the one Spock. You see what I mean?
That makes sense.
And
Yeah.
I just always felt like as a player, I would prefer that.
In threes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like coming back to a central point instead of being on one side or the other. I don't know. It's just, part of I remember anticipating some of the things that people ask, and that's just like, you know what? It's just like part of the reason also is a lot of other people do that, and so maybe we shouldn't do that, you know?
Yeah, and just set yourself apart.
Regardless of the number, he will still always refer to them as quads.
Quads. Oh, of course, that's what I call them. They'll always be quads. I mean, St. Quince, just to be sound right. Yeah,
That's a great
they're quads.
ring, right?
Yeah, but one other thing before, because I wanted to ask earlier, snare tuning. Do you tune your snares to what the show needs, or is there a way you like to hear the drums?
I think of a snare drum in a similar way as to the other instruments in the ensemble, which is it's got a definitive size and shape and characteristics to it. You know what I mean? Like if you want a drum to sound a lot different, then you probably should have a different size drum. You see what I mean? Like the actual cylinder that it creates is what is it, 12 by 14? And it has a certain range that is a physical thing that regardless of our opinion about what it should be, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's going to produce a sound. If you get into that sweet spot or the resonant vibration, that's the place in which the notes ring the most or the loudest. We try to kind of get there, regardless of the show. We try to get the instruments to sound the best they can sound by themselves, and then use it as an instrument to arrange. You know what I mean? As opposed to adapting every instrument. Like we can't tune the marimbas to be different or any, you know what I mean? But it's I think the same way a little bit on this with the snare drum. So
I've just noticed, like in recent years, not you specifically, but just in general, like snare tuning has gotten lower, if that makes sense. Maybe it's the head
yeah.
technology because it's not such a harsh sound as like the flam used to be. But it's like it's interesting to hear how everybody tunes their snares with whatever tape they use on the guts, however many guts they use. Do you cut any guts off, or is
We try to, you know what? And this is another like really interesting. I don't want to
This is fascinating.
talk too much, you know what I
sorry,
mean?
Sandy, I'm
I'm
sorry.
kidding. I'm kidding.
But
That's what I'm
but
saying.
it's
Fine.
like I remember, and this is like I'm just being honest about it. I could easily not share a lot of this and just like keep it all to myself. But I remember tuning drums in Round Rock, and I want to say it was I don't know 20 something. I don't 2014 or 13. I can't remember what the year was, but I'm tuning drums by myself, like typical before a show. Nobody's around the parking lot. I got the snares in a circle, and I'm spending a lot of time tuning them. And up comes this old guy. He's like a really like an older guy. He was like in his probably close to 80 or late 70s, and he was just standing there and he didn't say anything to you. So eventually I'm like start a conversation with him. And so lo and behold, he ends up being the drum tech for like Louis Bellson and Buddy Rich, and he worked for Ludwig, and you know what I mean, back in the age of like the 60s and 70s and everything, and he was the tech that set up their drum sets. And I thought that was fascinating. So of course I just pummeled this guy with questions about things. And the one thing he told me that really stuck with me was that the proportion of the snare bed, the part of the bearing edge on the bottom side is cut out a little bit as a trough, what they call the snare bed, and the snare should sit on top of that. And that was the way it's been done for the since the beginning of time. And so if the proportion of that is not right, then the snares won't speak as much. So that and it basically about a two-thirds ratio. In other words, the actual strand of snares should occupy about two-thirds of the snare bed that's carved out. And usually typical snare drums come with too many guts. And so that the gut actually goes over, what I mean,
that two
beyond.
thirds? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so you'll notice that the sound of it is a little washy and it's a little like the snares will slide around on the bottom head. And by eliminating, we use 12 guts. I cut two on each side, and it's simply because of what I'm telling you. But it just was reduced the amount of snare gut to sit in the bed. And it's amazing, Rob, how as soon as I did that, like the snares actually responded more. So having fewer guts resulted in more snare response. And that was kind of a thing that I have just stuck to a lot. The tape and all that kind of stuff tends to be very minimal for us. And that's because I think we're playing outside. Keyboards and the front ensemble need amplification. It has to happen. But the drums have a little better shot at sounding better outside. If you mute the drum too much, there's not going to be that ring like you have in a concert hall. So we tend to leave a lot of things a little bit more wide open so that they can ring outside more. So it sounds a little more like a concert hall.
Something that's really important too, and this ties in not only with the tuning but also with mallet choice and things like that, is I will often say to the players in the section, like, what you're hearing right over the instrument is not what we hear even just a few feet back, and then you go back into the stand. So I think it's always just really important to make your major decisions based on what it sounds like farther away. That's when you're really getting the accurate reading. But again, a lot of us, we tend to react to what we hear right over the top of the instrument, and that's just whatever sounds great right there is not necessarily going to be what's best.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, let's get back into this. I'm sorry for interrupting. If you ever need me to stop, if you hear something you want, let me
So
know.
if you want to like kind of back up to where the snares trumpet the split thing, where there was like a
Yeah.
snare cam, that technically is the beginning of movement 2.
Oh, okay. All right. I think this is it.
So this is the big peak at the end of the intro. No.
Right.
Mallet runs underneath.
Now this is the horn line is starting to capture
Yeah.
the function of the entire percussion. Probably stop right here.
Okay.
That would be what I would consider the big first statement of the second movement. Like that's the first big. It contains a couple of phrases, obviously, but it's a big chunk that you can stop. And so many things about that you could talk about, like, isn't it like so many things go by, like every phrase that you can talk about. The split nature of all the battery stuff eventually came together with a unison thing. I don't know if you remember, like the top bass plays the snare drum part. That's the first time that we're actually playing the same thing. And I thought that was a compositional device to bring it together to sort of lead to the major impact that's happening. Keyboards are playing sort of a contemporary ostinato that would be very similar to some of the most famous, latest large marimba works that are out there right now. So it's a little bit more connected to the contemporary world. So
When you guys are writing these big buildups together, is it like, what's a good way to put this? Is it like, do you map out like who you want playing what to make that build?
No, I don't necessarily think a lot of things I think just over time we are just good at writing together. I would joke that I'll write and then Paul will write and then I'll change all of my parts so that it will work with what he wrote.
one of the more,
Kinda.
one of the more interesting things is if you, and a lot of it is, it's kind of like what you said, Rob, like it's under the radar and you don't really know until someone kind of points it out to you. If you'll notice, like the entire vibraphone section during that snare split is up in the very top octave of their instrument. And they're playing rhythms that totally conflict with the snare line. I'm talking 16th note triplets against 16th notes and things like that. And yet you don't mind it at all because of the separation of register and range and rhythm and the focus of that. And it just creates this sense of tension without being like, like gross in terms of rhythms that don't line up and things like that.
Right.
So it's like one of those really unique situations where you can write rhythmically different stuff and it
Right.
actually sounds.
Yeah. To me, it's fascinating, and I've told Paul this before. It's like you have the full core, and that's a big production. But within that, you have the percussion ensemble, which is its own production, and even the battery stuff. It's its own musical piece within a work, and even the cymbal stuff is its own thing within the battery work. So, like I've jokingly told Paul, it's like Inception. You know, it's so many ideas planted to make one big thing. All right, let's get back into this next part.
And this is
Oh wait, oops. Did we get back to?
feature.
Hold on.
So all of that stuff, isn't it kind of funny too? Because it all seems like a feature, right? And then when you hear it with the full core, you realize, oh, okay. So this moment that you just started, that is like a percussion break, which it's, you
Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
know what I
Hold on. Let
mean?
me
Like you
back up a
can't,
little.
you don't really say, you could say that about a couple other phrases, but they're not. This is where it kind of opens it up. Now to Ensembles, totally changes. Yeah, and this is all behind like solely features, like sectional horn sequential. You can stop here. So one thing that is noticeable too, and this goes for the key, not just the battery, but keyboards as well. There's oftentimes like really awkward rhythms that are happening that seem to go by without even noticing it. It's like even that like the very last thing they played before the end of that was a 5/4 with eighth note triplets in between. And it's a really complicated rhythm, but it just seems like I think we work really, really hard on making it sound seamless and making it sound easier than it is. But once you read the score, you'll see the sevenlets and the five and all sorts of crazy rhythms uh, that happen throughout the body of the tune. And so instead of waiting for a feature to play some weird rhythm, uh, they're throughout the entire show, and it's surprising me. It surprises me how like how those rhythms fit, and they don't seem kind of awkward. They don't seem like a square peg in a round hole. They just sort of they I can figure out how to stretch them to land in the right spot.
Mhm.
Let me ask something, and I hope I don't want this to sound wrong because I don't mean it wrong. So I'm going to peel back the band-aid a little bit. This last year, I feel like in composition, you guys didn't score what you're used to scoring. Uh, Is there? I hate to say remedy for that because I love the way you guys write. I mean, do you think that there was a reason for that? Have you been able to figure out why? Because it's like you guys write and it's difficult and it makes sense, and like you were saying, there's so much movement and interplay.
I
Yeah.
think that
I hope this isn't a touchy
no,
subject.
It's
no,
tricky.
no.
It's tricky. You're right. Sandy will obviously say something here, but it's tricky to talk about this stuff without offending somebody, or without and trying to be honest about how you feel. It's hard because it's a competitive thing, and we actually are really good friends with a lot of the people we compete with, and
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's. But I do think that how can I say this? I think judges have their experience, right? Like we all in this Zoom, we have experience in our lives, and we listen to music and we value things. We tend to like what we know. You know what I'm saying? Like if we are familiar with something, we tend to like gravitate towards that. And I think, sometimes if you're trying new things compositionally, it's just people aren't familiar with it. They don't know. And when you hear split parts, there's a confusion of is this not together or is this together? It's much easier to hear things when there's not that many layers. You know what I mean? But we like.
I think that overwhelmingly, regardless of the that element, I think that what we will always do is just do what we think is right and what fits and what is organic about the music. I think that musical values are really important to us, and I think that has to be the ultimate goal, regardless of all the and then whatever happens as a result of that with numbers. I mean, it's hard to judge any of what we're doing out there now. And I think that, we've talked a lot about this lately, actually, with our kids, like how you define success in something. And so I wouldn't change a thing about what we did, even if it would have meant maybe a different outcome. I think that I'm so proud of this show, and this was such a challenge and fun, and so I feel it's exactly what it needed to be.
I think that's a good way to put it. I will always probably answer those kind of questions the same way, which is, I think we were great. I really did. And when I heard those recordings earlier in the season, uh, I honestly felt like, wow, this is some of the best stuff we've ever done. And I think compositionally, and like I said, it would take too long on this Zoom to go through every single thing and point everything out. But just the stuff that's coming in the show, there's so much variety and there's so much stuff, and we spend so much time thinking about it, and like it's very well thought out that we believe in our group and we believe in our product. We believe in what's happening. And you know what? If somebody loves it, that's great. If somebody doesn't, well, then we'll just hang in there, and then we'll come out with something next year. I just think that to try to predict somebody's subjective opinion about whatever is happening, it's almost like it's
Yeah, and I feel like this year it's evolution, and your guys' right. As every year is like evolution, but it's always great to see you try fresh new stuff, whether it be texturing, whether it be different types of writing. But it's always great. I love what you guys
Thank you.
do.
I think
It's
this,
really
I think
nice. Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. Anybody that takes the time to really like look under the hood and figure out what's going on, I think they'll usually get a lot more out of it and realize that, oh wow, this is every year that we come out with these videos at the end of the summer, the reaction is almost always the same, which is somebody will notoriously like come up to us and say, wow, I had no idea. Right? I mean, they'll start with, I had no idea. And it's like, that's kind of part of the reason why we put these things out.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's always like after the fact. You know what I mean? It's like sometime in December that they will realize.
Like what's funny to me, my favorite part of this year's book wasn't even a battery moment. It's like a triangle feature in the because it's just so cool and it's out there and it's like isolated. It's coming up in a little while, but I'll point it out. But it's just like that was like my favorite part just because it's so different. All right, let's jump back into it. Now it's playing effortlessly up there.
I'll tell you, Rob, that was the first thing I'm going to say
What's that?
about how hard that was to get together.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like the just seriously, like the everything the keyboards do is a cold attack, and it's not like a C major scale.
No.
Like it's a complicated thing, and to complicate it even further by like cold attacking every one of those was a really challenging thing, and it was really uh, hats off to them for making it seem effortless, but it required a
Well,
lot.
the challenge with this race too is you're featuring the quads and then the snare. Like there's like a battery,
Well, there's front to back, and I was going to ask, was it hard getting that?
and then lining that up front to back, but then also getting the keyboards to all play at the same time, and the tempo is quick. And again, the mode of it's not like we're playing again anything that's scalar or just major scale like mode. It's really challenging, and it was just really fun. I remember this in the gym. It was like the February camp. February March camp, and it was just like, wow, if we're going to be able to do this, this is going to be awesome. And yeah, I love
It was
I love this phrase so
like
much.
208 beats per minute, and yeah, and just realizing that either you're in it or you're not. Like, that kind of do or die situation was, and we figured out how to be cool and how to
Mhm.
actually train the players to trust each other in terms of tempo. And
Yeah. All right. Let's get back into this.
like all
And
of
then
those were like 5-way variations.
and then like the soundscape in the background just works so well with what's going on.
And you could stop right. Yeah,
Okay. One thing I got to ask, that whole phrase, it's so fast.
yeah.
Did you guys really have to like rehearse that with a met like a lot, or was it just like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we definitely like tempo is a huge concern of ours, and we make sure that we are um, training them to set them up so they're independently able to keep that time. Our use of metronome is a little different than some other people. We use it a little less, I think, and I think we expect the players to hold that tempo. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes if you use the metronome too much, then the metronome actually holds the tempo and not the players so much. But it's funny because if you notice all of the keyboard parts, all of the dee da, all those expand over time. And that was a cool thing that we talked with Evan about. The brass do that as well. And
Space in between
yeah, like the
notes.
space in between gets bigger. And so what we did with the battery was we increase the density as the space gets bigger, the battery plays even more dense. And at the very end, we kind of give it up and say, you know what? And we just play like a big 5/4 quarter note shot thing and get rid of all the density so that we could end the phrase that way.
but even just to come in with those cold hits with to to respect the space that comes in between those, it's got to be like hard. 'Cause you want to feel like the tendency is going to be to rush those entrances. Was that somewhat? How do you clean that? Is it just repetition?
The most important thing was teaching the players what's going on.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like I remember when I first started teaching, I remember I heard people say like, just block this out. And even at a young age, I remember thinking that's probably not the right thing to say. You know what I mean? It's like,
Listen to that.
yeah, I don't want you to block everything out. I want the marimba players to understand completely what the battery is playing. And there's a lot of smart players who can play battery instruments in the front ensemble. And so it's not like you're talking to someone that doesn't get it. They understand like the rhythms. And we literally teach them the parts and they understand exactly what's being played and what they go with. So while the Burmas are getting ready for the next isolated attack, they're not totally stressed out of like completely stressed about what going
Not at
in.
all. Yeah.
They are in their mind, they're actually with the battery. They're reading the battery's part in their mind and just coming in with
We
that part.
we spend a lot of time we spend a lot of time together. And I know I think that like that familiarity with the entire musical product and how I'm confident you could ask any one of them from the bottom bass drummer through the xylophone player and the timpanist, like where at any point in the show, like where their part, how it fits into the bigger picture, what the primary voice is at that time, or the secondary, or the tertiary, like they all understand their role throughout the entire show. And so but we do really detail it that much. I think that there are times when if we're really trying to line things up, like they will understand, okay, what note do I hit when the quads hit that shot? And they like there's just a really I mean, ideally we want these guys are all great musicians, but that listening skills and the ensemble playing is such a valuable part, like really honing their ears makes them it really, I think, only enhances them as musicians, and they're all going to leave here and then go back home to their programs and wherever they may be. And we want them to add value to where they are spending the majority of their year also, and we want we're not just trying to teach them this show. We want to improve every aspect of them as people and musicians and so on. And so I think that's just kind of a byproduct, I guess, of being in these groups is yeah, you just I actually think those attacks, I didn't even occur to me that that would be like yes, we're going to just know the battery parts and just go with the
Yeah.
battery there. Like they all understand that because I think yeah, it's just been the way that we do things.
So everything that people are playing in the ensemble, not just the battery or the front ensemble, is reference to something else.
Hmm.
You see what I mean? Like the amount of times that you could say that like a marimba player would be playing by themselves and not worried about anything else. I don't even know if there is a spot. I mean, most of what they're doing, they're playing when somebody else is playing.
Yeah. I feel like you guys create better musicians by having them understand how their part works within the ensemble. Is
Yeah.
that safe to say? Yeah.
Yeah. And it ends up being a few less duts are needed. I'm saying like because the music is the dut almost.
I know there's kind of a trend and you see a lot of pulsing that happens with groups. I think historically that's just been a thing that we see a lot of nowadays. And I kind of think that for us, we've always really valued like it's a musical activity for like what we're doing. We're playing music, and so I think we rely less. Sometimes we have to rely on the visual side of things, whether that's watching feet going by just because of whatever might be happening musically. But for the most part, it is primarily about what they hear, and I think that. I don't know if that's a super common thing, but I think that's a really important skill that shouldn't be overlooked. I don't think.
Mhm.
Yeah. During that whole thing, I'm sure the listening points must have been crazy, like how to figure out.
Well, yeah, you remember they started that whole thing like on the 20-yard line.
Yeah.
They come
It was
across
like
the side, yeah.
the
And then it's like
certain amount of like
hauling butt all the way across to the other
Yeah.
side,
it's a
correct?
certain
Yeah.
amount of like in the front ensemble. They know the part and they can kind of hear it, but it's not like it's totally clear to them. Like, it's not like they're in an arc or whatever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty serious. And this is one of those sections, Rob, that honestly, some of the stuff that they're playing, there's several moments in each show that I write something or we write something for the ensemble that we kind of wonder if they can do it or not. You know what I mean? And that whole section contains like 30-second note things and 16th note things at 208 and stuff that I was actually wondering if they could do it or not. And usually those end up in being some of the best moments. Seeing good players struggle is kind of a fun thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool to see like somebody working for it. And I think that that whole section was just packed full of stuff.
Well, that leads me up to my next question for the both of you. Um, Difficulty wise, where do you rank this last year's show compared to other shows you've written? Is it like top five, top three?
Yeah, no question.
I would say so, yeah.
As far as it's just like density of notes or the amount of playing time and the amount of difficulty for the parts, yeah, I definitely would say it's up there.
Because I remember talking to you, Paul, like early on. You're like, you wait till you hear this book. It's like, it's crazy hard, and it's like it's interesting now to hear your point of view as far as where it ranks amongst the 2015s, 2018s, 2007 books. You know. Okay, let's get back into it.
So now this is returning to the original
Yeah.
part of the show.
I like the way you guys use the metallics.
And it has like a nice resolution, which is kind of tricky with this piece, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like this is one of my favorite parts, just the texturing of the all the different stuff, the playing fingers on the drums, the sandpaper stuff. Is it sand? Hold on, is
Yeah.
that sandpaper?
Yeah, sand blocks.
We could just figure out
They
as many things that we could combine that would sound like in that same sort of.
Now, is that stuff you guys design, or did they make those that you can buy?
Well, I think we had versions of each. We had some homemade ones and some purchased ones. I think originally like at the start of this, you hear like the horns all come around and then you can hear some whispering and some things that see the whole show. And I think that was kind of the idea is that it would be a whisper like effect. And then that's how that kind of evolved into, okay, well, we can get that sound, similar sound with the kabasa and the sand blocks and then the hands on the drum, like just kind of grow that out of the whispering that you hear in the horn line.
And the human voice thing was
Mhm.
talked about in design meetings like really early on. And I think I just there we have an acting coach, Wayne, and he basically is and I appreciate when you hear him like deliver lines, it's professional. It sounds incredible. I think that we were trying to figure out a way to add the human voice into the show that would be like an instrument. You know what I mean? Like a musical instrument. And
That was my favorite.
it just boiled down to the whispering and what they were saying also is part of it. You can't really tell, but even to that level of detail, like what they were saying and how they were saying it. And I remember thinking that the human voice thing on the end wasn't enough to like sustain like the accompaniment of the tune. So we just created a platform for the voices to stand on, which is like the fuche and the sand blocks and the fingernails on the snare drum. Stuff like it just all sounds that wouldn't get in the way too much, but would be real clever about fitting. So
And also tying into this movement coming up, it's the Bartok String Quartet, and it's all like pizzicato and soft. And I think that was something that we really wanted to try to do. Um, Certainly after the previous movement, where it was, I mean, I think you end up holding your breath for a lot of it, just because it's, you're being screamed at essentially for a few minutes, and then this is just the complete opposite. I think it's a really nice contrast too.
So during the show, the whole ensemble together, is the horn line actually whispering out there, or is it something? Is it a sound?
Well, they
yeah.
come to the front where this starts. It overlaps a little bit, and they'll be on the front sideline while the soloist is introducing one of the like the props, I guess if we call it. Yeah. And they are all in a big crowd over around him, and they're whispering over there. That's the when the whispering part happens, just right at the very
Like the wireless mics that we're using on the
on the soloist. Yeah.
bells. We really spent a lot of time investing in whispering into those mics. But regardless of how much we tried to prepare, there was always the clank of the horns hitting each other or things like that. So eventually we did supplement it with a recording of them doing it and just sort of filled it out just enough to make those
Just so
little,
it's layered.
yeah, a little less offensive in terms of the clanks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Let's get back into this. And my favorite triangle part's coming up here at the end.
Right. I don't
So
think we have
cool.
sound. There.
The little sizzle of the cymbals. I really appreciated the whole dynamic shaping of this whole movement. There we go. It's such a cool part.
And here you can stop right. So that was the first half of that. We combined two string quartets by Bartok, and that everything prior to this was part of one movement, and the next movement was this going forward.
Like
But
when it
like
speeds up, the flurry.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like us playing with fingers and things like that. I don't think we definitely did not set out say, oh, we definitely have to play with our fingers. It was more of a logical, like you got to that conclusion logically by the volume. You're like, okay, we got to play softer. It's got to be softer. And how soft can we play? And so like using fingertips and things like that was the option that made the most sense to us. And then isn't it funny the triangle in the front ensemble? I love that part because it's a very soft triangle And I think that really is a reference point for the audience to understand how soft we are playing here. You can hear a single triangle playing at like mezzo piano or
Whenever I was filming, I made sure whoever had that camera, hey, dude, just please give me that triangle part. It's just so cool. Do you feel like did the judges appreciate this movement as much as I did, as much as I do? You know.
I would like to say sure. Yeah. No, what I think is really cool though too, and this is just again, I think well, it would be really easy for them to just not play. It's
Yeah.
quiet. Just take them out. It's too loud. And I love how it's like, no, you know what? We'll just play with our hands. And I think again, it's like the easy. It would be easier to just not play. And I think again, like, wow, like we could teach them how to play really softly, or we could really push them as musicians. Like, can we make this work? Can we make this work? And again, I think we always that seems to be our first angle rather than just simply taking things out.
Yeah. How can we make this a musical moment?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking for things to do, you're just trying to figure out what areas need to be exploited more. And honestly, especially with the battery, I thought if we could play it at a professionally soft level, that would be a different thing. That would be, like when you're auditioning for the Chicago Symphony, it's like they're not telling you to play loud. I mean, basically, it's the softest, most accurate players usually get the gigs. And I thought, you know what, we could stand to go into that world a little bit in terms of volume levels, pull people in rather than
Mm-hmm.
yell at them.
It's like you're talking about that triangle part. It's so soft that you force the audience to listen in and like lean forward to hear that, to hear the goods.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it.
And even those fingers, they're playing roughs with their fingernails. And this tempo change.
Reef the speed.
Yeah.
Little front to back moment. Now that whole decel, is that something you really had to work on? Or is it written, did you write the music to a point where the music shapes it to a decel? I don't know if that makes sense.
I definitely metered it out. It goes from every conceivable sort of rhythmic step on the ladder there, and it eventually winds out. But the hardest thing about it is like I'm thinking, and I said this a couple of times before in the past, but I'm thinking Mike is going to set up in an arc like 1983. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden we get the music, and this not only are they moving the whole time, but they're moving and leaving us and expanding the form. And honestly, there's a couple things about this movement that I felt like you're kind of hoping people will get. One of the things is playing soft at that speed is hard. Like playing at over 200 beats per minute at piano is very difficult. In that pianissimo roll at the edge was nailed, and it's a tough thing to do. It's sort of like what all like professional excerpts. That's the part that you're hoping that you nail. And we wanted to make sure we had one moment like that in the show. But just going that fast and playing that soft was difficult in itself. And then to move while you're decelling that thing to the quarter note pulse was really, really difficult, you know. So
Yeah.
good for them. And
Let's get back into it.
and like all young players now, Rob, you know how it is. It's like the more challenging it is, the more the players accept it.
Oh,
The more
100%.
they want it,
Yeah.
So
Some more texturing with the
This is
violin.
really,
that's cool.
if we can stop for just a second.
Sure.
So I can, so one thing that I've always wanted to do and it's never worked, so we've never done it, is have like I think the sound of the bowed keyboard instruments, especially, I think it's just such a great sound, and it's something we can't really do a whole lot of outside just because it's, even though I'd like to believe they're front and center and they're the stars of the show, it's hard to really notice things like that. And so I think this whole transition into the beginning of through the opening phrases of the ballad, that was again, a real intentional, you know, we're all going to have two bows in our hands. The marimbas are turning around and they're bowing on the vibraphones as well. Like it's really a moment that we wanted to just be just so different. And I just love how this all turned out. It was exactly what we were hoping for.
We tried to do a couple of both things in the past. And I think what Sandy's referring to is we both were really like, okay, this is going to be so great and
Here's the
everything.
moment.
And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it goes by and you don't even catch it. It has to be scaled to a point where you can notice it. Like it can't miss it. And one thing I'll tell you, Rob, about just the dynamic range that we're trying to play at. One of the things that really was a nice surprise was that the quality of every instrument actually does sort of speak better. Like you played something, and I noticed that the cymbals had sort of just a general mezzo forte crash. And it just sounded really good because there was nothing competing against it. And the same thing with the bows. What Sandy was just saying is like you have to carve out an area
Yeah.
dynamically that this stuff can happen in. And you have to resist the temptation to step on it. You know what I mean? Because everybody who writes in
Or
drum
add
corps
to it.
understands that you're working against the clock. You know what I mean? You got it. You only have a certain amount of time. You got to get your stuff in to be judged and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes it requires a certain discipline, just sort of really like, let's play at piano here and let's play at mezzo piano so that a bow can act like a real bow in the real world and actually can trigger and sound at a reasonable volume. And if everyone else wasn't there at that volume, then it
It
wouldn't
wouldn't work.
work, you
Yeah.
know.
It's got to be hard to have stuff like that project
Yeah.
out, especially in such a big space like a stadium.
Hmm.
But thank goodness for the mics and stuff to help pick that up.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, here we go. Yeah, it's just such a cool sound.
And once again, this is a really great bridge. This is actually part of another tune that we only use this part of it. But it functions as a really clever bridge
Oh yeah,
to get to.
and then back to the theremin, correct? Then you're bowing. What are those, crotales?
Fratellis,
Everything.
bells, everything that.
Wow. Yeah, just the cold runs.
I can't
I love that
I
part.
can't tell you enough how seriously, Rob, how difficult that was.
Oh, I bet.
If there
Yeah.
was a part that we were um like maintained all summer, was that part. That contained so many advanced permutations and awkward rhythms and a lyrical touch to it is was really difficult.
And again, one of the things that I think it's like having the bows be heard. I think it was one of those moments where because of the melody that we're playing in this opening phrase of the ballad, is these really long half notes, dotted quarter notes, whole notes, and so it opens up the space that we can have these, and we just have the center three doing that first phrase. It just created this window. And so again, it's like unless you like intentionally create these moments, something we couldn't have done a little vignette like that, just in any old show at any old time. And
Yeah.
a cool thing about this tune that I really like too is that the ballad is the name of the piece is called Home, and then we combine it a lot with the Send in the Clowns themes throughout. So um, it was
It's like I feel like this. It's one thing just to play the notes, but it's another thing to shape it musically to pull out that emotion. If that makes sense.
You notice that the bridge, everybody moved to bows, and
Yeah.
that enabled them to start the tune with bows. So there's some practical things that have
Right.
to happen. So definitely
Oh.
got the protractor and the slide rule out, tried to figure out where they could go to bow that pitch so that they'd be in that same area. You know, that you'll notice that people turn around and play bows on the other instruments they're playing. And yeah, and once again, it comes across as being just sort of a seamless thing that you don't notice, but the amount of effort it takes to sort of make it seem seamless.
Well, is it the logistical planning to have that all happen too?
Right.
A little shout out to the bow people too. Um, and we wanted to use bows. I kind of knew that, okay, we need some bows. We need like
A lot.
not just like 3 or 4 bows. So there's this place called Incredibo.
Yeah.
That a lot of percussion ensemble people will be familiar with, but a lot of people won't. It's just a woman runs her own small business, and she makes bows, and they're pre-tensioned, which I was kind of worried about, but you can get them in any size you want.
Yep.
So we got bows that are about, I think 17 inches
I was going to
they
say,
kind of
yeah, a foot and a half.
generally ordered. And a regular violin bow, I think, is 22 or something. It's a little less awkward to use.
Yeah.
And they're pre-tensioned, so you don't have the horsehair screw tightener thing.
Yeah.
I was really worried about that because I was thinking, oh man, we're all summer we're using these bows every day. And you know what?
They're great.
They were fantastic.
They held up under the wear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're synthetic, and so they caught the instrument really easily. You know what I mean? Like they used rosin, but it actually did fire and trigger like most of the time, like right away.
Yeah. See, this is the stuff like the common person like me doesn't even think about. It's like, oh, they have bows, but to get the bows.
I want to say 15,
I was going to say,
15 to 18 bows or something like that. So
We won't talk about what happened with the chimes like finals.
I don't even know.
we got new ones already. So
Yeah, I was there for that, but we won't. This will be the last we talk
we're
about.
picking up a new set at PASIC.
All right, here we go. Back into it. So just that shaping is just. And timpani in the background.
Yeah.
It gives it this whole is like a big dreamy effect to me.
Yeah. And now this is the second half of the ballad. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah.
There's very
don't talk over the pitch.
I was there's several moments that you can look at that you can recognize the writing that Sandi was doing, and I think that last phrase is definitely like a hallmark of I don't know what the right word is, but it's a you can recognize it in like one measure, like the signature sound of that, and I think that's a really great thing.
What I appreciate is the spacing between the notes.
Yeah, just the comfort level of listening to it and not being stressed out about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I like that.
They did a really great job with this.
Please come back.
another decel. Now, like with the other first one, was it that hard to get together front to back?
Uh, no, I don't know. Like it's all relative. Like what's difficult and what's hard. There's different things that are difficult about different parts of the show. And I think a lot of these, um, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the learning process. Honestly, I think the first time that we learn something really sets you off on a path that can make it easier or hard. You know, like if we rush through the process, then all of a sudden we won't have covered certain things. But I think their understanding of the part and the rhythms involved and what happens and is so clear that it's a little less maintenance than you think it would be.
Go ahead, Sandy. Do you have
Well,
something?
what I love about all of that too is after the front ensemble phrase, and then things start moving back in time. Like I think that's what that whole pit moment reminds me of, almost like a cadenza, like a little more improvisational sounding, even though it is very much in time. That's not the feeling of it, but then we go right into a pretty rigid sense of meter, I think. But the everything is happening backfield, and so that's what I think is really great. And I know uh, that sense of build that happens that leads us to the turnaround after the that theremin motif. I just say again, I just really like all that, and I think that just keeping it all together. I mean, I know I'm not out there every day, but I don't know that we have a lot of problems with timing and tears and ensemble moments. I think it's just, I don't know, everything just seems to work, and
It's part of the process.
yeah.
It's part of the writing experience and the process of learning it. I think
Mhm.
those things really make things easier or harder, depending on how you do things. So our process is always considerate of that.
Let me ask you something about this part. Maybe you might be able to answer it, maybe not. It's more like the overall design. The dude with the big Pringle cans on his arm that pulls out the ribbon. Does that supposed to represent anything, or is it just a visual moment?
Like a hallmark of the avant-garde artistic movement was the exaggeration of things. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like there would be paintings where somebody's nose would be like really big, or
yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
certain like out of proportion things. And I think that was the intention of
The
the
arms.
guy with
Yeah.
the arm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Just to make it just comically, like cartoonishly scaled so that I actually like that moment a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too. I wish when I was there I got a chance to put those on just to take a picture with them because I thought that was cool. But my fat arms wouldn't fit in there, so.
The visual guys like really I thought it was a great interpretation of the music as
Well, and I think the idea when they're laid down, they're yard lines. If you think about it, they're hidden. You don't notice them. And so it's like actually, it's again taking what we have out there and changing the perspective of what it is too.
Interesting. Interesting. Now I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the whole
right.
show after
Me
this.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about any of that until today.
Yeah, I always like that, like a bold decision like that. You know what I mean? Unapologetically, here's a guy with like 10-foot arms. You know what I mean? I thought that was I like that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, me too. It's just so different and out there. But I would always wondered the interpretation of that.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's back it up a little.
Yeah, this is tough. Cold attack on the back sideline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Metallic texturing.
the engines, the sound effect machines are going.
What was that?
So yeah, like the sound effects machine. I thought that was probably an important thing to mention about the those boxes that are attached to the marimbas. Those are kind of meant so that the players could have a live interaction with the sound design.
Oh,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we just like live performance, and we like like in the moment, like you're feeling certain ways in the moment, and that sometimes that's not totally predictable and immediate. You know what I mean? It can be different
Mhm.
for shows, and I think the players have a certain liberty to do it. And then the one thing coming up next, 'cause Sandy will eventually have to go here pretty soon, but
we'll try to wrap it up.
so the next chunk of the music, and one of the intention was, if you'll notice the keyboard parts underneath the snare feature, those were similar to the introduction of the show, similar to movement one of the show. And those were supposed to anchor the syncopations in the snare line. And so the snare line should give you the feeling like it's out of time or it's floating, and the choice of weird rhythms makes it feel like it's not in time. And then the one thing that anchors the time is the keyboard part underneath it. And that was, at least that was the intention. So
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I like that snare feature. You always have that little callback to like 2018, the rewind.
now the keyboards are playing an awesome. Now it's more rhythmic. And we just thought that would fit better underneath the quattro. And then it's a keyboard feature to end it, which is different.
So then, yes, rather than building to a big full ensemble moment. I'm sorry. Rather than to a big full ensemble moment, we end up actually almost dissolving it down to just a front ensemble, which will then hand it off to a horn, because it was just going right into the horns, so it didn't seem right. Although normally it'd end like a big percussion feature with the whole ensemble and a big loud moment. Instead, we just sort of
We figured it would be a
went
much
backward.
better handoff
Yeah.
from the keyboard feature to the brass feature.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here, let's go back a little. Then the brass feature's like right now, right?
Right. Yeah.
What happened? Hold on. Why don't?
Technology.
Yeah. The beats were so hot. Stop the video.
It's like the bullhorn culmination.
Yeah.
Another cold attack tempo change.
Yeah.
Now,
Was it?
what's interesting about this, Rob, is that this whole section recapitulates the different sections of the entire show, and it modulates between each one. And so it's kind of what we consider like we're wrapping it up. Here's a reminder of what was in the show, and then this leads to the final moment.
And we're hinting at, you hear slight little fragments of Ascend in the Clowns melody as it's going, and then ultimately is going to hand off to the horns coming up for a bit.
A short segment of a reprise and then to the big.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this big cymbal build right here. All that for just a little.
Right, and then this is the avant-garde approach to the company front.
Let's talk about that marimba and snare moment though, right there. Is that something that was planned out? Like you just wanted the marimba and snare to like just reef it?
I'm not sure.
Well, it was like a full ensemble. This would be like the company front, and then it was the horns. They like turn and just play into the ground. So we couldn't just have us play, everybody playing and all. They all had the parts, and then I remember that in Idaho,
Yeah, we just picked people
it
up.
was like, okay, we're going to try this. Let's start. You two are the only ones playing for this measure, and then you two add in. And so the players had to just, I don't know, it was a little trial and error, and then
It's
yeah,
like
so
it's
they
the
add
only,
in as it
it's like
goes.
the only way to control balance at this point.
Right.
Simply have fewer people playing, because like like we just said that the horns were playing at piano and like into the ground, and anything we did essentially just blew that out. So we just had to really, not only did they play soft, but we just sort of staggered the entrances a little bit. Like I said, it was like the avant-garde approach to the old style company front. Like we build it up, timpani roll, and then everyone's piano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Fair
that was the whole hook to that.
Let's get to the end here. Poor editing choices by me up here at the end, just staying on the battery. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It was.
Gay Van
So,
Gogh.
one of the most challenging things about this show, I think, was to really come up with the old school drum corps ending kind of thing.
The challenge was to make it a big drum corps ending.
There's all sorts of different kinds of effects, right? There's different effects. Is a variety of shades of effects, but drum corps like fortissimo B flat major chord with some rim shots in unison. You know what I mean? That's kind of like your bread and butter as far as the end of the show goes. But it was really a little bit difficult to get there with our show. You know what I mean? It just didn't lend itself to. It sounded oftentimes out of place. And so what we did was we just worked together as a music staff and really tried to create a feeling of an ending. And we ended up changing it until like I want to say the day before quarterfinals,
Yeah.
in terms of just getting it just right. And we ended up bopping a B flat chord at the end, which was just tonal enough to give you that satisfied feeling.
Yeah, I remember I was there when they put that in. I was like, oh, nice.
Right. It was like super dissonant until then, like all 12 notes are being played, and then we release it like that. And that's the best choice. So.
Yeah.
in closing, is there anything you got else you'd like to add? I know I've kept you here a long time, and I want to kind of wrap this up for you because I know you guys.
It was good. It was good for us to like get it out, into the pre-PASIC sort. We're gonna do like a short version of that. What we just talked about, just to kind of help people understand the show a little better.
I would hope. I would hope it's short. I wouldn't want the people to sit there as the 2 hours that we've been here.
But isn't it crazy how much there is to talk about?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm sure we can just go on and talk more and more. And that's partly my fault. So
I think we're the wrapping comments, and Sandy can finish it up here. But I think that we as a creative design team have got to a level of comfort that is usually only gotten to over time. Like we've been together for a while, and then we learn how each other works and talks, and I think it's really comfortable, and I really appreciate everybody on that design team because there's such a variety of opinions and like focuses, and it's just really fun to try to work within that environment, and so it's fun. It's a good time.
yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Sandy.
Well, I was just going to thank you. Thanks for having us to talk about this because honestly, I haven't really thought too much about it. Usually, we get home from the summer and then we're just onto life and after the summer and so to get to actually kind of nerd out on this a little bit, it's really fun. I forgot a lot of what it was.
And this is just one level of nerdiness because I'm sure if you have other people, they really go into every detail, like mallet, what kind of mallets, why did you choose that specific yarn, yeah.
Thanks for what you do.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Thank you to both of you for being out there and for as long as you have putting out these sweet books for us to listen to and debate about. And, I look forward to this next season. It's already audition time for the 2026 version of Vanguard. And I wish you guys the best of luck on that. And also have fun at PASIC this week. You guys deserve all the accolades during your clinic. And I can't wait to hear and see the different videos that I'm sure people are going to put out for that.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. And with that, we'll wrap this up, guys. That way they can watch football and go play soccer. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Take care.